Anyway, like I said, let's cover more Project 2025. What we love more than anything is reading this stupid horse crap document, so let's do it. But first, let's get into the fan art section. Stuff, actually, the tiny jellyfish in our group, said that the slime Suris made out of slime inspired me to make my own slime Suris made out of slime, but mine is a different texture. It is a different texture. It looks very, very squishy. The next one we have is from Riddle of Lightning, a Blender Suris. I don't know why I am a blender, but yeah, it definitely looks weird to me. And it makes me feel strange, like I can consume many fruits and turn them into tiny chunks. Anyway, as always, everybody, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it in the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, let's go ahead and get right into the Central Personnel Agencies Managing the Bureaucracy. We are on page 102 of this. We are 1/9 of the way through Project 2025, and I feel like, just like with every other project that I started in my life, it's going to be abandoned halfway through as my hyperfixation dies. But until then, let's go on for a ride. Overview. From the very first mandate for leadership, for those of you who didn't know, the mandate for leadership was, of course, the 3,000-page document given to Ronald Reagan for him to enact about 2/3 of their policies over time. From the very first mandate of leadership, the personnel is policy theme has been the fundamental principle guiding the government's personnel management. As the U.S. Constitution makes clear, the president's appointment, direction, and removal authorities are the central elements of his executive power. In implementing that power, the people with the president deserve the most talented and responsible workforce possible. So far, it doesn't look horrible, right? Except for all the stuff about the Trump personnel we saw in the last couple episodes, but you know. Who the president assigns to design and implement his political policy agenda will determine whether or not he can carry out the responsibility given to him by the American people. I like how they specifically use him and only ever him instead of like something gender neutral. They just don't expect a woman to come from the Republican Party and win a position of power in the United States government that's as high as the presidency. Anyway, the president must recognize that whoever holds a government position sets its policy. To fulfill the electoral mandate, he must therefore give personnel management his highest priority, including cabinet-level precedence. The federal government's immense bureaucracy spreads its hundreds of agencies and thousands of units and is centered and overseen at the top by key central personnel agencies and their governing laws and regulations. The major separate personnel agencies of the national government today are OPM, the Office of Personnel Management, the Merit Systems Protection Board, the Federal Labor Relations Authority, and the Office of Special Counsel. Title V of the U.S. Code charges the OPM with executing, administering, and enforcing its rules, regulations, and laws governing the civil service. It grants the OPM direct responsibility for activities like retirement, pay, health, training, federal unionization, sustainability, classification, and functions not specifically granted to other agencies by statute. The agency's director is charged with aiding... making sure that there's nothing in the chat that I'm missing right now. Sorry. The agency's director is charged with aiding the president as the president may request in preparing such civil service rules as the president prescribes and otherwise advising the president on actions that may be taken to promote an efficient civil service and a systematic application of the merit system principles, including recommending policies relating to the selection, promotion, transfer, performance, pay, conditions, services, tenure, and all that other fun stuff. Right now, we are in the boring part of the document. Anytime we are in one of these sections, it's just explaining how the jobs in the government work. And as fun as that is, as cool as that is, we don't need to worry too much about this particular part. It matters for those who care a lot about legalese, but past that, we can't really worry with it too terribly much. Analysis and recommendations for the OPM. At the very pinnacle of the modern progressive program to make government competent stands the ideal of professionalized career civil service. Since the turn of the 20th century, progressives have sought a system that could effectively select, train, reward, and guard from partisan influence the neutral scientific experts they believe are required to staff the national government and run the administrative state. Their U.S. system was initiated by the Pendleton Act of '83 and institutionalized by the 1930s New Deal to set principles and practices that were meant to ensure that expert merit rather than partisan favors or personal favoritism ruled within federal bureaucracy. Yet, as public frustration with the civil service has grown, generating calls to drain the swamp, it has become clear that their project had serious unintended consequences. Ah, yes, the unintended consequences of putting experts into fields of expertise. That's... The unintended consequences of having a board of science with an expert at the top of it. You think they're talking about Dr. Fauci? Anyway, the civil service was devised to replace the amateurism and presumed corruption of the old spoils system, wherein government jobs rewarded loyal partisans who might or might not have professional backgrounds. Although the system appeared to be sufficient for the nation's first century, progressive intellectuals and activists demand a more professionalized, scientific, and politically neutral administration. Progressives designated or designed a merit system to promote expertise and shield bureaucrats from partisan political pressure. But it soon began to insulate civil servants from accountability. Yeah, they're talking about Fauci right now. The modern merit system increasingly made it almost impossible to fire all but the most incompetent civil servants, complying with arcane rules regarding recruiting, rating, hiring, and firing simply replaced the goal of cultivating competence and expertise. So, the rules that basically said that while COVID was ravaging the country, Donald Trump would be unable to actually do anything to, fuck over the country more. The stuff that Dr. Fauci did everything in his power to, help, doing everything he could to make sure that Trump did not fuck over the country more, being the voice in his ear, despite how often Trump would shit-talk him. Instead, Project 2025 envisions a system where they will be able to look at the Dr. Faucis of the world and just get rid of them. Just get rid of them. Not important anymore. Just, oh, you're not with the program that the president's putting down? Fuck off. You've been here 25 years and you're an experienced professional with a long resume of stuff that you have accomplished? Fuck off. That's what this reads. In the 1970s, Georgia Democratic Governor Jimmy Carter, then a political unknown, ran for president supporting New Deal programs and their Great Society expansion, but opposed the way that they were being administered. The policies were not actually reducing poverty, increasing poverty, or improving the environment, he argued, and to make them work required fundamental bureaucratic reform. He correctly charged that almost all government employees were rated as successful, all received the same pay regardless of performance, and even the worst were impossible to fire. And he won the presidency. President Carter fulfilled his campaign promise by hiring Syracuse University Dean Alan Campbell, who served first as chairman of the U.S. Civil Service Commission and then as director of the OPM, and helped him devise and pass the Civil Service Reform Act of 1978. To reset the basic structure of today's bureaucracy. A new performance appraisal system was devised with a 5 rather than a 3 distribution rating categories, and individual goals more related to agency missions and more related to employee promotion for all. Pay and benefits were based directly on improved performance appraisals, including sizable bonuses for mid-level managers and senior executives. But time ran out on President Carter before the act could be fully executed, so it was left to President Ronald Reagan and his new OPM and agency leadership to implement. Hitchmeister says, the goddamn expert is saying stuff I don't like. Why can't I fire him? Ah, yes. Ronald Reagan, the guy who was known for absolutely failing in his response to the HIV and AIDS epidemic. That guy. Overall, the new law seemed to work for a few years under Reagan, but the Carter-Reagan reforms were dissipated within a decade. Today, employee evaluation is back to pre-reform levels, with almost all rated successful or above, frustrating any relation between pay and performance. I'm going to be honest, I believe that if you are working a job that is very important, and you are good enough at that job, you should be paid enough to live comfortably. Whether or not you are paid more or less than the other Joe Schmo who is doing an equally good job, I don't give a fuck. If somebody is getting paid $150,000 a year to do their job, and they're doing a damn good job of it, and another person is getting paid $150,000 a year to do their job, and they're doing a damn good job of it, why do we need like a pay incentives program for them? Why do we need that? Unless we want to have a system where we're basically giving people more money for... They're going to say it's merits-based, but seeing how much of this has been talking about having loyalists to the president in their positions, it feels more like having a stash of money that can be used for people who properly brown nose, or people who properly grease the wheels, so to speak, on presidential policy that may or may not be a good idea. Whether or not that is necessarily what they're going for, that's what it looks like. Anyway, OPM merit hiring in a merit system. It should not be impossible, even for a large national government, to hire good people through merit selection. The government did so for years, but this has proven difficult in recent times to select personnel based on their knowledge, skills, and abilities as the law dictates. Yet, for the past 34 years, the U.S. Civil Service has been unable to distinguish constantly between strong and unqualified applicants for employment. You know, I feel like there's going to be people who agree with that statement when it comes to the United States government, but they're not going to be able to give any actual examples of a competency position. I mean, Fauci is going to be the one that a lot of like right-wing people lean on, but even when it comes to Fauci, we can see that every single thing that he suggested was based on his expertise, and if everything had been followed, then we would be in a much better state where COVID was concerned. Rob Alern says it's no longer a bribe. It was given afterwards. It's a gratuity. True. True. Maybe I can bribe some of you to pay off my credit card debt. Maybe that's what I should be doing. We should go to merit-based streaming, where I prove that I have no merits and you give me money anyway, and then I get out of credit card debt, and then my life is revert. Like, all course on my life is reversed for the better, and everything is just goddamn perfect. Right? That's what we're doing? Okay, that's not what we're doing. Damn. Agreed, the system isn't perfect. It can always be better, but getting rid of the experts with proven track records is bad. Yep. No, you can't. Says, hey, Suris, how you doing? As the Carter presidency was winding down, the U.S. Department of Justice and top lawyers at the OPM contrived with plaintiffs to end civil service IQ examinations because of the concern about their possible impact on minorities. Oh, we're getting into the racism. Oh. The IQ tests that actually don't determine competency in anything? Those IQ tests? Those ones right there? Where we get to do the whole bell curve thing to say that, no, we don't need as many black people in government? Those IQ tests? You know what IQ tests show? They show how good you are at doing an IQ test. They don't actually prove competency in any one field. They don't actually prove legitimacy in any one trade. They don't prove anything other than your ability to do an IQ test. There is some correlation between having a higher IQ and being a smarter person, but there is not a causative link between the two of them, your ability to perform on an IQ test and how actually smart you are. Jessa says IQ exams are bullshit, says someone who has to take one every 5 years. People who actually, like, worked on making IQ tests literally say, hey, don't use these as a way to measure intelligence. Hey, don't use these as a way to measure people being hired for a job. Don't use these for those things. Don't do that. Anyway, general ability tests like PACE have been successfully used to assess the usefulness and cost-effectiveness of broad intellectual qualities across many separate occupations. Courts have ruled that even without evidence of overt intentional discrimination, such results might suggest discrimination. The doctrine of disparate impact could be ended legislatively or at least narrowed through the regulatory process by a future administration. In any event, the federal government has been denied the use of a rigorous entry exam for 3 decades, relying instead on self-evaluations that have forced managers to resort to subterfuge, such as pre-selecting friends or associates that they believe are competent enough to obtain qualified employees. In 2015, President Barack Obama's OPM began to introduce an improved merit examination called USA Hire, which it had been testing quietly since 2012 in a few agencies for a dozen job descriptions. The tests had multiple choice questions with only one correct answer. Some questions even required essay replies. Questions that would change regularly due to press cheating. President Donald Trump's OPM plan implemented such changes, but was delayed because of legal concerns over possible disparate impact. And it's funny how when Obama does it, they're like, yeah, no, it went through. And when Trump tried to do it, they're like, yeah, the courts said it was a stupid idea for him. That isn't a glaring thing saying, oh no, it's bad, they were going against Trump. It's going, oh, maybe the things that Trump wanted were really stupid. Maybe, possibly. Also, apparently my girlfriend is here. Hello, honey. Aren't you supposed to be asleep still? You've only slept for like 7 hours? And that's not as much sleep as you normally get. Are you doing okay? Before you end up, like, coming into the room. Eh? That said, the centrality of performance appraisal. In the meantime, the OPM must manage the workforce it has before they can reward or discipline federal employees. Managers must first identify who their top performers are and who is performing less than adequately. In fact, as Ludwig von Mises proved in his classic bureaucracy, unlike the profit and loss evaluation tool used in the private sector, government performance measurement depends totally on a functioning appraisal system. If they cannot be identified in the first place with a functioning appraisal system, it is impossible to reward good performance or correct poor performance. The problem is that the collegial atmosphere of a bureaucracy in a multifaceted appraisal system that is open to appeals makes this a very challenging ideal to implement successfully. Oi, 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 oi. Dog barking, yelling, and nightmare woke me up. I'm sorry, hon. Well, do you wanna? Ah, bonk happened. Do you want to get dressed and come in here for a bit? I mean, I'm doing a recording at the moment, but I mean, nothing's impossible. Speaking of sleep, good night, chat. Night, species. The GAO reported more recently that overly high and widely spread performance ratings were again plaguing the government, with more than 99% of employees rated fully successfully or above by their managers, a mere 0.3% rated as minimally successful, and a 0.1% actually rated as unacceptable. Why? It is human nature that no one appreciates being told that he or she is less than outstanding in every way. Informing subordinates in a closely knit bureaucracy that they are not performing well is difficult. Rating compatriots is even considered rude and unprofessional. Moreover, managers can often be and are accused of racial or sexual discrimination of a poor rating, and this discourages honesty. I feel like this is a weird take, right? It's weird to say, hey, a lot of the people in our government seem to be performing well based on these performance evaluations, and that's a bad thing. I don't have enough evidence to actually substantiate whether or not this is a bad thing or whether or not this matters at all. This idea that the only people who are operating in government are the people who don't deserve to be there but have the right friends to be there, it may or may not be true, but I don't know if it is. And a system of putting loyalists in place is not going to fix that. Brings up merit pay next. Performance appraisals means little to daily operations if it is not tied directly to real consequences for success as well as failure. According to a survey of major U.S. private companies, which, unlike the federal government, also have a profit and loss evaluation, 90% use a system of merit pay for performance based on some type of appraisal system. Despite early efforts to institute merit pay throughout the federal government, however, compensation is still based primarily on seniority rather than merit. I feel like seniority and merit are both important, though. Jessa says ADA bullshit, like the Heritage Foundation does have some good points. They're just in spite of, not because of all the bad ones. Yep. Ever since the original merit pay system for federal managers was allowed to expire in September of '93, little to nothing has been done either to reinstate the federal merit pay program for managers or to distribute performance ratings evaluations for the SES, much less to extend the program to the remainder of the workforce. A reform-friendly president and Congress might just provide the opportunity to create a more comprehensive performance plan. In the meantime, however, political executives should use existing pay and especially fiscal awards strategically to reward good performance to a degree allowed by law. And then the next part is making the appeals process work. Non-military government dismissal rate is well below 1%, and no private sector industry employee enjoys the job security that a federal employee enjoys. Maybe instead of nursing, I go to work for the United States government. Maybe that's what I do. Yeah, if the job security is so good and the pay is so standardized and the benefits are there, I mean, fuck it. What's the worst thing that could happen? I just go to the Georgia Capitol and go like, hey, are there any jobs in the Atlanta area that I can do for the Georgia local government? Can I at least get health care? As noted, there are multiple administrative appeal bodies. Cases involving race, gender, religion, age, pregnancy, disability, or national origin can be appealed, and in some cases to both the EEOC and the MSBP. Now we're starting to get well past the stuff that I care about too terribly much. The MSBP can and does handle all such matters, but it faces a backlog of 3,000 cases of people who were potentially wrongfully terminated or disciplined as far back as 2013. From 2017 to 2022, the MSBP lacked the quorum required to decide appeals. On the other hand, as of January 2023, the EEOC had a backlog of 4,200 cases. Okay. USAjobs.gov. I guess I'll be looking at that here in a bit. Oh my god, I went away from where I was. Let's go here. Having a choice of appeals is especially unique to the government. If lower priority issues were addressed in-house, serious adverse actions would be less subject to delay. With the proper limitation of labor union actions, the FLRA should have limited reasons for appeals. The EEOC's federal employees section should be transferred to the MSBP. Okay, so this is just downsizing the appeal process. Making civil service benefits economically and administratively rational. Okay. In recent years, the combined wages and benefits of the executive branch of civilian workforce totaled $300 billion, according to official data. But even that amount doesn't properly account for billions of unfunded liability for retirement and other government reporting distortions. Official data also report employment as approximately 2 million, but this ignores 20 million contractors who, while not eligible for government pay and benefits, do receive them indirectly through contracting, even if they are less generous. Official data also claim that the national government employees are paid less than private sector employees are paid for similar work, but several more neutral sources demonstrate that public sector workers make more on average than their private sector counterparts. All of this extravagance deserves close scrutiny. What? Hold on. Hold on. What? Extravagance? Did they... Hold on. Hold on. What? Extravagance? They literally just said that they get paid on par or less than the private sector. How is that extravagance? What? I'm so confused. How is that extravagance? Government employees are paid less than private sector employees. Official data says they're paid less, but neutral sources demonstrate they make more on average. Official data says they make less. Are they going to name what their neutral sources are, though? Jessa says the pay is low, but the benefits are way better. That's amazing. Jessa says federal, not state jobs, and they're hard to get. I've tried for 3 years. I gave up if you get it. You're in and set forever, but you have to get in. Gotcha. Vanberg says there's always some government job available, and they're all for healthcare for now. But keep in mind, there are always government jobs available. Question why that is. Said neutral sources are likely the Heritage Foundation. Yeah. I mean, honestly, you know what? We're just gonna, real quick, jobs at Georgia Capitol. I wouldn't mind walking around that marble building again. Career opportunities with the Office of Secretary of State. Maybe I'll look into that once I'm done with this stream. Anyway. Market-based pay and benefits. According to the current law, federal workers are to be paid wages comparable to the equivalent private sector workers rather than compared to all private sector employees. While the official studies claim that federal employees are underpaid relative to the private sector by 20% or more, a 2016 Heritage Foundation study. Ah, yes, the study we concluded, the people who are writing this document, the study we made. This isn't an unnamed neutral study. This is a study by the Heritage Foundation. Official studies claim the federal employees are underpaid relative to the private sector. The Heritage Foundation study shows that they received wages that were 22% higher than wages for similar private sector workers. If the value of the employee benefits was included, the total compensation premium for federal employees and other private sector increases to between 30 and 40%. The American Enterprise Institute found a 14% pay premium and a 61% total compensation premium. Is anybody else seeing that the eyes and stuff in here are, like, rendered weird? Okay, no, it's better now. I thought I was getting a migraine for a minute there. Yeah, the Heritage Foundation, the very definition of impartiality and scientific analysis. Oh, boy. Perfect. That's just amazing. That's just amazing. A federal employee with 5 years' experience receives 20 vacation days, 13 paid sick days, and all 10 federal holidays, compared to an employee at a large private company that receives 13 days of vacation, 8 paid sick days, and federal health benefits are more comparable to those provided by Fortune 500 companies than with government paying 72%. Wait, hold on. Do they just want to take away benefits? Is that all they want to... Is that what they're trying to do? This whole section is just saying, fuck your benefits, fuck your sick days, fuck your vacation days, fuck that. And remember, this is all government employees, so this would include people working for schools, right? Almost half of private firms don't offer any employee contributions at all. That's not a good thing, Heritage Foundation. That is, in fact, a very bad thing. But they're just like, no, the private sector solved this a long time ago. Just fuck the employees over. Stupid fucking capitalist shitfucks. The obvious solution to these discrepancies is to move closer to a market model by federal pay and benefits. One need is for a neutral agency. Of course, a neutral agency, like the Heritage Foundation. Very neutral. To oversee this stuff. Okay. Reforming retirement benefits. Oh, no. Oh, boy. Career civil servants enjoy retirement benefits that are nearly unheard of in the private sector. Federal employees retire earlier, at age 55 after 30 years, enjoy richer pension annuities, and receive automatic cost of living adjustments based on the areas in which they retire. That sounds like a good thing. Why is that a bad thing? Defined benefit federal pensions are fully indexed for inflation, a practice that is extremely rare in the private sector. A federal employee with a pre-retirement income of $25,000 under the older of the two federal retirement plans will receive $200,000 more over a 20-year period than will a private sector worker with the same pre-retirement salary. Sounds like the private sector needs to catch up then. What? So they just want to screw up the retirement then. This is all this is saying if you're a federal employee, if you work for the United States government in any way, shape, or form, we want to make your system more model a private business. And we will have all of the problems of it looking like a private business when we do that. Jassa says, Federal Salary Council reported that federal employees are underpaid by 27.54%. Yeah, and they feel like they would want to screw them over even more. Yeah, it does sound like a skill issue from the private sector. It's a huge skill issue for the private sector. God, now I just want a government job. Like, I just want a government job now. Like, obviously, I wouldn't be allowed to be as edgy on the internet, but I think that it would be a good fit. Jesus. Anyway. Landlord and contractor management. The General Service Administration is best known for its federal government's landlord designing, constructing, and preserving government buildings for leasing and managing. I'm not too worried about the rest of this stuff here. Create a responsible career management service. We kind of have the gist of everything that they want to do. Rather than being daunted, President Trump issued 3 executive orders. God, they like talking about Trump a lot. Let's see here. Jasso says, according to the CBO, the cost of benefits for workers of all levels of education were 43% higher than federal civilian employees than for private sector employees. But regarding wages, the CBO found the federal government would have spent 10% more on salaries if it adjusted the pay for its employees to match private sector counterparts. So yeah, great bennies, shit pay. For-profit government, what could go wrong? Yep. Executive Order 13836. Encouraging agencies to renegotiate all union collective bargaining agreements to ensure consistency with the law and respect for management rights. What the fuck are management rights? Why do we need managers' rights? We are workers' rights people. Executive Order 13837, encouraging agencies to prevent union representatives from using official time preparing or pursuing grievances from engaging in other union activity or government time. So they wanted to take more time away from... If the union had a grievance with the job, they wanted to make sure that they didn't do anything involving that grievance on company time. No. Boss makes $1, I make a dime. That's why I shit on company time. Oh my god. And then 13839, encouraging agencies to limit labor grievances on removals from service or on challenging performance appraisals and to prioritize performance over seniority when deciding who should be retained following reductions in force. That sounds like a shrinkage of HR departments. Fully staffing the ranks of political appointees. Yep, and then this is more of the let's put the loyalists in the government thing. A reformed bureaucracy. End notes. And that is it for that section. Screw people who are federal employees. Let's make everything emulate the private sector. Take away your benefits. Take away your rights. Let's put more management rights there. And just screw the little guy. They don't matter anymore. Okay. Well, that got us 20 pages deeper in Project 2025. Jesus, this document, it's just bad. My camera, it fell. One day, One day I'll adjust this camera in such a way that it doesn't do that. Till that day comes, we can deal with the things falling. Well, I've given a big dump of information here. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Part 6 of the Project 2025 deep dive will come, who knows? Tomorrow? I don't know. Insert end of video tagline here. Hey, I just quickly want to give a thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who keep this show running. YouTube and Twitch are a pretty bumpy ride at the best of times, and the stability a Patreon provides me is worth more than I can say here. I'd also like to thank each and every one of my $20 and up patrons here, and they would be Red Joker, Britzkrieg, Cameron, Dren, Jemshin, Smiling DM, Poundini, Mabbity Babbity, Naomi, Isaac, Agamotto, Jordan, Ravi, Giuni, Kiratorian, Prisma, all of you, I'm not saying that part, and Starlight. And finally, thank you to everyone else that helps keep this channel alive. While you're here, why not check out another video? And thank you for watching.